So I'm already signed into the software and I already have my resource up. We're going to look at 5 of the features to begin with. So I'll take you through them. So what we'll look at is what they are, how they work and how they could be beneficial. And then I can also show you them in action as well. So the first tool that we're going to look at is the Spotlight tool. And most of the tools, well, actually all of the tools that you'll use for accessibility are going to be within the Magic Box. So I'm just hovering my mouse over that now, and you can see that it says Magic Box. And here, this is where you'll find. Now, they have actually all been sectioned off, so they're all in their sections. So this one would be all of your inclusive classroom tools. So the first one I said that we're going to look at is the Spotlight tool. This feature is actually on the view boards as well. So if you're not using the My Viewboard software, but you have a view board and you use your side toolbar, you can actually select the Spotlight tool as well, and that will sit over the top of anything. But I'm going to bring that up here. What I might do actually is just change this slide onto something else so that we can focus on something on here. So I'm going to click the Spotlight tool, and this is going to appear now here. Now, what the Spotlight tool is used for is drawing attention to one piece of maybe text, could be an image, whatever you have on your screen. This could be used for students who maybe find it difficult to focus, and the teacher just wants them to focus on one part of the screen. So you can see here that it is a circle, and if I'm on an interactive board, I can use my hands to make that smaller or bigger, and I can just focus on one thing here. Now you can see that I can still see other things on the screen. So what I'm going to do is just click here again, go into my settings, and I'm just going to change this slider here all the way to the end, which makes that fully dark. Now what I can do is I can again focus on something here. So it could just be this bit of text that I want them to look at. I can also, if I click again, I can change the shape as well. So it might be better for my students to see something like this. And then we could focus over that particular text. We can also make it bigger as well. So if we wanted to zoom into that, and we could zoom into that to make it even bigger and help them focus more. To get rid of this tool, you're just going to press the cross, and then we go back to our original resource. The other tool that I'm going to show you that could be useful to use when you're using the whiteboard is, as you can see, this resource has been created with a white background. And every time we open the canvas, it's always going to be a white background unless we change that within our settings as our default. So if I go into here where you can see it says background management, I can go into my color grid, and here we have something called Erlin filters. Now again, Erlin filters have been customized, and you can see it says it here to reduce visual stress, glare, distortions and sensitivity. So it just allows for students to have more clarity on the content that's on the screen. So here's some of the different colors that can be used. So if I just go and maybe choose what should we go for? Maybe go for yellow. I can now change the color of that resource to a yellow background. Again, to mention, if you are using a view board, your side toolbar down the side also has something called Erlin filters. Erlin filters can then be put over anything that's on the screen. So if you have your laptop connected and you're using PowerPoint or you have a Word document, you can actually put that Erlin filter over that content. And again, it's just going to help students who maybe find it difficult to process on a white background. So those are your Erlin filters. The next tool that we're going to look at is Immersive Reader. This is probably a tool that a lot of schools use and is very popular. All you have to do is have some text on the screen. You're going to use your select tool, which is here, and then you're just going to select the text that you want to be read. So I'm going to choose here. When you select the text, you get this bar that appears down the bottom, and there's a number of different things that we can do. But what we're looking for is it looks like a speaker inside a book. And if you hover over it, it will say Immersive Reader. So now I'm going to click on that. When I click on that, it opens a new window and it brings that text that we've clicked on into that Immersive Reader window. Now, it can just read the text out to the students, so we can just press play and it will read that text out as it appears. But there are different options that we can use while we have Immersive Reader up. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the little book
Sorry,
here.
Tiffany. So
Yes.
I didn't actually hear that read. Did you hear it
It
from your
may
side?
be because when I shared my screen, maybe I didn't click on share audio as well. So
Okay.
yeah, not too sure what I can do about that now.
No,
I'm not too sure if
that's
I can go
fine, but
back
obviously
into
it
it.
does
It read from
read
my
out.
end, yes.
Okay, excellent.
It read
No
from my end.
worries.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine. Thank you.
Okay. Um, okay, so also we've got some other options. So we have things like line focus. So for those students who maybe have attention challenges, it could be useful for those learners to maybe just have a one-line focus. So when it's being read, all they're seeing is that one line, and you've got different options of how many lines they see on that text. So again, you can just go through them here. You also have the option to use syllables. So for some users, this might be quite useful. So you can toggle that on to have it read in syllables for them. We can also change the font. A common font that schools like to use is Comic Sans. This is because when we look at how this text is written, it is how we write our letters as well. So it's more easier for the learners to read. If you look at how the A is compared to maybe if we went back to here, we don't really write our A's like that. So sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for students to understand the text. So putting it into Comic Sans could make it more helpful. You also can change the color of your background as well. So again, things like having a green background or maybe a yellow background could be more helpful for your learners. So that's just using it as a basic way of reading out text aloud to your students. We can also change things like the text size as well. So if we want to make it bigger, if we need to make it smaller, and also we can use things like increasing spacing. So again, that does help with some learners. Again, if I go into the little book tool here, you can see that I have an option for a picture dictionary, which is switched on at the moment. So if I was to click on a particular word, so here, for example, it should usually bring up the word. It is only just bringing this here. So let me just try that again. So I'm going to toggle it on and off. And we'll go back and see, maybe if I, yes, okay, so this one, it's brought up something. So you can see here, I've got a picture dictionary. So I click on a word and it will now show examples of what that word is. So if you have students where English is maybe not their first language and they're still learning, they can have a look at something visual, which is really helpful for that. So that is there. We can also translate this whole text into a completely different language. So again, for those students who maybe English isn't their first language and we want that text read to them, or maybe you are teaching another language and you want your text to be translated into that language. You will find that most languages are in here because this is taken from Microsoft's Immersive Reader. So it is just embedded within the My Viewboard. So you will find that pretty much everything is in there. If we just go for something, let's just say Danish, for example, what it will do now is I can have it by word. So if I tap on the word story, it will tell me what the word in Danish is, and again, give me pictures. But if I want the text read aloud, which you're not going to hear because I didn't put my audio on, but if I put it, change it here, you can see that now it's converted that English text into Danish. And when I were to press play, it would read that text in Danish. So that's really helpful for students. I also, when I'm demoing this at schools and training teachers on how to use it, I also mention that it's really good if you have parents where English isn't their first language and you want to communicate something to them. You could always bring them into the classroom, have something on the view board and translate that into another language for them. And that seems like it goes down really well in schools where population of parents, English maybe isn't their first language. So that is the Immersive Reader tool and how that can be used within your lessons on any resource that has text. anyone does have any questions while I'm going through this, do feel free to stop me. The next tool that I'm going to go into, again, remember we're going into the magic box, is live captions. Now, live captions is really useful, again, if students' English isn't their first language. So if a teacher is speaking another language, you can change it to the language that you're speaking. And it's also good for those who maybe struggle with sound processing. So if they have sound challenges, then live captions could be useful for them. A question that often gets asked is, will it pick up all sound? And the answer to that is yes, it will. So if you do have students in the class that were also talking, it may well pick up what they are saying as well. So there needs to be some kind of class management, so that you're letting your students know that while live captions are on, that they're not able to speak. So there could only be certain times where maybe this is possible, but it is an option if you need it. So if I click onto live captions, you will need to toggle it on, and you will need to choose the language that you want it to be in. Now, just remember, it's only going to translate into the language that you're speaking in. So it's not like Immersive Reader where it will read it in any language. You have to be speaking that language. So if I was speaking Arabic, let's say, then my captions would appear in Arabic. But if I'm speaking English and I've tapped on Arabic, it's not going to write in Arabic for me. So what we would want to look for is English United Kingdom. We're then going to toggle it on. And as I'm speaking, you will find that the captions appear on the top of the screen. So those will be there until you toggle off. And once you toggle off, those captions will then disappear. So I will toggle off and close that down. They've disappeared. Okay, so that is the live captions. The last one that I'm going to show you is speech to text. Now, this is really good if you have learners in the class who maybe struggle with spellings. They're not, they maybe prefer to communicate verbally rather than writing. So this may be really useful for them. So what I'll do is I'll add another page into my lessons here. You can see that I've got 4 pages here, but at any point, if you need to add another page for anything, you can do. So I'm going to add another page. You can see now that I've added my next page, it appears as yellow. And that's because I'm using a yellow background. I can always change that at any point if I want. So to use speech to text, we are going to click on here and we're going to go to speech to text. Speech to text will then ask you to click where you would like to start writing that text. So I'm going to click on here, and what it should do is start recording my voice. Let's just try that one more time. So we'll go speech to text, click here, and then you can see that the microphone appears. When the microphone appears, it is then recording my voice. So anything that I'm saying is now going to be written onto this canvas. Once I stop, it will also stop. There you go. So we usually have to give it a few seconds for it to appear on the screen. That probably does depend on internet speed and things like that as well. Usually what should happen is once I stop, this should appear. There should be an option to hit done. When I hit done, that text will just remain on the screen. And then I have some different options of what I may be able to do with it. So like this. So what I could do is I could go back and I could put that in an immersive reader. So we could have that whole text here read out in another language now. We could also highlight text. So there may be a need for me to want to highlight the text in a different color, or we may want to change the text color. So again, I could say I want that to be red. So those are 5 of the accessibility features that are really useful to help enhance lessons, to make the lessons available to all of the learners within the class. We do have a whole load of resources and tutorial videos on our myviewboard.com page. On that page, you can download resources that have been made for SEND students, and there are also tutorials where you can go back and watch how to use each different tool. The videos are kind of like a minute or so each, so those could be really useful. So I can send links for those for people that may want to go back and watch some of those tutorials, or maybe even want to download some of the resources. But yeah, any questions on any of those things that I've shown today, feel free to reach out. My email address is tiffany.hull@viewsonic.com. Thank you for joining the session, and I will wrap it up there.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you, Tiffany. That was excellent, by the way. Yeah, so a lot of those tools were, I mean, some of the tools were ones that I was aware of, and there was some on there that I wasn't aware of. So yeah, I think that was excellent.
Brilliant. Yeah, the speech to text did manage, it kind of did
I seen
work.
that. Yeah, I was a bit curious just to see whether that was actually going to work